Welcome to the Good Mood Show. I'm your host, Matt O'Neill. Be sure to hit subscribe so you get a good mood every single week. Today, we are talking with James Swanwick, who's an Australian-American entrepreneur, award-winning journalist, and former ESPN Sports Center anchor. James spent 8 years working as a Hollywood correspondent, interviewing numerous celebrities, including Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, George Clooney, Bradley Cooper, Kobe Bryant, David Beckham, and many others. He now puts his energy into coaching people to improve their lives and performance by adopting an alcohol-free lifestyle. He is the author of the book, The 30-Day No Alcohol Challenge, your simple guide to easily reducing or quitting alcohol. And just for listening today, James has a free gift for you. I've read it. It's incredible. It's his 5-step formula to discreetly quit alcohol. If you're already a subscriber to the Good Mood Show newsletter, we're going to email it out this week. If not, no worries. Just go to goodmoodshow.com and sign up for our newsletter or reach out on the contact page and we'll get it over to you. I couldn't be more excited for this show. James, welcome to the Good Mood Show.
Thank you very much for having me, Matt.
Man, I had so much fun reading through your guide, and the one story that really just captured my attention was this story about you interviewing Bradley Cooper just as the movie The Hangover was about to be released. Would you mind sharing that story with the listener here on the Good Mood Show?
Yeah, sure. So I was living in Los Angeles, California at the time, and I was a Hollywood movie star interviewer. So I was interviewing movie stars and then writing up a story, and that would get published in newspapers and magazines around the world. And I stopped drinking in 2010. So in 2009, I was still a drinker, and I found myself at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills, California, interviewing the relatively unknown actor at the time, Bradley Cooper, who was promoting this film called The Hangover. Now, of course, with the benefit of time, we know that The Hangover became a huge worldwide smash hit. But at the time, you know, Bradley Cooper was just a bit part actor, etc. So anyway, I was interviewing him in this hotel suite about his experience on the movie and trying to dig in a little bit about him, get to know him a little bit. And one of the questions I asked him was, what's your favorite alcoholic drink? Because obviously in this movie, you're playing a heavy drinker, you go out, you get drunk in Las Vegas and all these kind of things happen. So what is your favorite non-alcoholic, what is your favorite alcoholic drink? And he said, I don't drink. And I said, what? He said, yeah, no, I gave that up a while ago. And now my first reaction in that point was, I don't understand this. He's like in a movie about drinking heavily. And he looked kind of cool to me. And at the time, I associated drinking, having a few beers with your mates as being cool. And so when he said that he wasn't drinking or he stopped drinking, I was like thinking to myself, God, this isn't the kind of person I'd want to hang out with. Like I literally thought he was dull and boring and just, you know, of no interest to me. And then he went on to tell me, you know, like he pushed it pretty hard. He banged his head on a concrete floor at a Hollywood party a few years earlier, and he just decided that he'd had enough. And by that stage, when I was interviewing him, I think he was maybe 3 or 4 years alcohol free. But isn't it funny, you know, back then as an Australian living in California and going to parties, you know, hedonistic parties and having a great time drinking, that I thought that he was dull and not someone that I'd want to befriend, because he chose not to drink. And then, of course, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, he's gone on. I think he's had like 4 or 5 Oscar nominations. He's a superstar. You know, he's had a child with a Victoria's Secret model. I mean, by every metric in society, he's absolutely crushed life. And yet, when he told me he didn't drink, I thought, ugh, what a loser.
You know, and that story captured me because he does portray someone who is this massive partier with substances in those movies. And that's what put him on the map. But from that point forward, as you mentioned, he did some really great roles beyond that and really blossom as an actor. You know, you talk about how we have this social pressure to drink, that it's like this bond that makes us feel part of a tribe. You know, why is it that we feel this social pressure, and why is it so hard to imagine life without it?
You know, for thousands of years, we used to live in tribes of what they think was about 140 to 160 people. And if you were ostracized from that tribe, right, if you did something wrong and the tribe rejected you, it meant almost certain death, because the bear was going to eat you, or the wolf was going to get you, or a rival tribe would try to kill you. And so you lost that support of the tribe and the group. And so that reptilian thought, that reptilian, you know, in our brain, our lizard brain, still hangs on to that even in the modern world. It's 2023, and we still feel that instinctively, even though logically we know that that's not true. You can just join another tribe. So that's why most people today have so much resistance and feel so awkward around the possibility of stopping drinking, because they have a reptilian brain unconscious belief that they're going to be rejected by society, or at least rejected by that tribe. But as I said, in 2023, you can just join another group. And even the existing tribe of drinkers are now increasingly becoming more educated about alcohol. And so now what we're seeing is a cultural revolution where even the people who were giving you grief for not drinking previously are now more receptive to that and more open to that. I mean, look, it's a slow process. It's going to take a number of years. It could take another decade or two. But I am absolutely increasingly seeing more and more people more receptive to people who are choosing not to drink, and more curious about themselves either reducing or stopping drinking. And here's the thing, even in the unlikely scenario that you get kicked out of a tribe because you're not drinking, you can just join another one. There are thousands of them. They're all over the world.
It is this biological survival instinct that we don't know is running us. Like we really don't understand that the reason that we have this social pressure is there's a piece of us that thinks we will die if we do something that doesn't fit in with our tribe. And so once we understand that, we can say, well, if I choose not to drink and some people make fun of me, am I going to die? No, I'm not going to die. But and for me, I made this decision 3 years ago to stop casual drinking. And that was my biggest worry, was like, man, I don't want my friends to like not hang out with me. I don't want to be the unfun person. And you've got some really great answers to that I wanted to ask you about. How can you be fun without drinking?
Well, it starts really with a belief and a commitment that you can have more fun being alcohol free. Now, I am a living, breathing example of that, because I haven't drunk alcohol since 2010. And I've had so much more fun in my life being alcohol free than I ever did when I was drinking. So it does start with a belief. And a lot of our clients who we take on, we have a 90-day stop drinking process. And a lot of the clients on the first day or two mistakenly believe that they're going to have to retreat from society, stay at home, lock themselves away, and don't go anywhere near alcohol. But what we have them do is we have them run towards situations where there's lots of alcohol, where there's an open bar, where the alcohol is flowing. And we show them and we coach them on how to have the most fun. Now, you asked me, how do you have the most fun? Before you go into an event, you commit to yourself, I am going to be the most engaging, have the most fun. I'm going to ask the most genuine questions. I'm going to introduce people. And by the way, this works for introverts as well. I'm going to smile. I'm going to put on a George Clooney-esque smile. Let me explain that for a second. When we think of George Clooney, we think of suave, sophistication, charisma. And as you said to me just recently, nobody messes with that type of confidence. And so they've done these studies of persuasion and influence. And what they've shown is that all persuasion and influence is only 7% what you say. It's 93% how you say it. And how you say it means body language, tonality, the pacing of your voice, your mannerisms, whether you've got your shoulders back or your chest forward. And so we invite our clients to run towards social situations and put on their George Clooney grin and smile and feel confident and playful and lighthearted about the fact that they're not drinking. And if someone interrogates them about why they're not drinking, just put on your George Clooney smile and just go, I'm good. I'm just drinking soda water, ice, and a piece of lime, but I'm going to get drunk on this soda water tonight. I tell you what, let's go shot for shot. While you have your drink of tequila, I'll shoot this soda water. And you're just playful with it. But most people are like, oh, I'm not drinking. Oh, I can't have a good time. Oh, everyone else is having a good time.
I'm going to have to hang out with a bunch of lame people. This was my thought process, was none of my friends are going to want to hang out anymore. I'm not going to get invited out. They won't invite me back. And then I'm gonna have to find this whole other group of people that just plays board games every weekend, and my life is gonna suck. And that's really where my mind went. But the pain of what I was putting myself through was so high, I was willing to stop in spite of what I thought could be these negative consequences. I also thought I was going to get ribbed a lot, that they were going to make fun of me a lot, that they were going to pressure me a lot. I found, as you're describing, no one pressured me. No one made fun of me. Everyone respected me. Nobody even asked twice. A lot of people didn't ask what was going on, or if they'd ask if I wanted a drink, and I'd say, oh, I'm good right now. And that was it. But I love your line of, hey, what are you drinking? You say, yeah, I'd love water with some ice and a slice of lime.
Yeah, I say water, ice, and a piece of lime. I've been flirting with that as the title of my next book, actually. Water, ice, and a piece of lime. Look, or soda water, ice, and a piece of lime. I mean, I love it because it's refreshing. It hydrates you. The soda water's got some, bubbles to it, and you squeeze the piece of lime into it and it makes this really beautiful citrus limey drink. You got the ice, which is cool. And then even if those people who are so kind of self-conscious that people are thinking that they're not drinking, most people will actually think that you're having probably like a vodka soda just by virtue of the fact that you're holding a drink with a slice of lime over the glass. So you can actually fend off any interrogation if you feel so awkward about that, just by appearing to drink vodka soda and a piece of lime, whereas in actual fact, you're just drinking soda water, ice, and a piece of lime.
But I wanted to get into the dangers of casual drinking. And, is drinking alcohol casually really that bad if you're only having a few drinks a week?
Well, look, here's the thing. There was a 2022 study that came out that looked at 35,000 middle-aged adults, okay, over the age of 40, right? 35,000 people they looked at. And what they did is that they gave them one standard drink per night, okay? So one seemingly innocent glass of wine or a beer or whatever it is per evening. 7 standard drinks in a week, okay? And what they found was that was enough to destroy gray and white matter in the brain. Now, the bumper sticker is even moderate drinking can cause brain degeneration. Now, just think about that for a second. Most people listening here, I would suggest, are drinking more than 7 standard drinks a week. Now, you might not drink on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then you go, oh, geez, I'm feeling pretty good. I'll have a couple of drinks on a Thursday. I'll have one on a Thursday. I'll have a few more on a Friday. Then on a Saturday, you have a couple. Maybe you have 1 or 2 on a Sunday. And before you know it, there's your 7. In fact, maybe you got to 10 or 12. In fact, in Canada, the country of Canada, they used to recommend 10 drinks. They used to say that 10 drinks per week is considered low risk. But about 4 months ago, with new research, Canada changed that. And they then came out and said, oh, actually, we made a mistake. 2 drinks per week is a low amount of alcohol. And that's what we recommend. Think about that for a second. A whole entire country has gone 10 drinks, 10 drinks a week, you're okay. Then they've changed it with new evidence to actually 2 drinks. So you ask the question, is just a few drinks a week okay? Well, maybe. Depends how old you are, depends how long you've been drinking, depends on your genetics to a degree. But for the most part, 7 standard drinks in a week is still enough to cause brain degeneration. And we really do need to be aware of that.
Yeah, and you talk about sleep a lot. I know that this is something you really help people with. How does just a few drinks, like let's say we have just 2 glasses of wine tonight, how does that affect our sleep?
You're better off drinking those 2 glasses of wine for breakfast than you are anywhere close to bedtime. And this is not an invitation to drink whiskey and wine with your cornflakes or toast in the morning. You imagine going into a Starbucks and say, yeah, I'll have an Americano and a glass of rosé, please. No. But at least then, if you are going to drink for breakfast, your body now has 16 hours to try to process all of the toxins and the poison that you've just put into your system sufficiently enough so that by the time it comes to bedtime, let's say 9-10 o'clock, at least then your body, when you fall asleep, your body can now rest. The problem is that most people are having these seemingly innocent glass of wine and beer at the end of the night to help them, quote unquote, relax. And what you're actually doing is you're putting your body to work, because the body doesn't want that poison in it. That's not natural. It doesn't want the toxins. And as soon as you drink your attractively packaged poison, which is what I refer to as alcohol, attractively packaged poison, your body has to go to work to get the toxins out of the system. But we don't want our body going to work when we're sleeping. We want our body resting. We want our body in a state of rest and repair, not work. And so people mistakenly believe that a glass of wine at the end of the night helps them sleep. Now, it's true it may help them fall asleep, but the quality of that sleep is now going to be severely compromised, which is why when people wake up in the morning, they still feel lethargic, they feel slightly irritable, a little bit foggy. And then, of course, what do? They then try to give themselves a little bit of energy with some carbohydrates or some sugary foods. And then that, of course, spikes the glucose in our body, which then causes a crash, which then leads us to eating more sugary foods, which gives us a crash. And then by the time we get home or we've finished the day's work, we just want to, I just want to relax with a glass of wine or two, or just a couple of beers. And then the cycle continues. And I should say the vicious cycle continues.
Yeah. And then we wonder why Americans are so overweight. Because as we're putting on all these carbs and sugar to try to make us get back to homeostasis, and then doing this crash and spike thing and all the sugar that's in the alcohol, I mean, this is just calories upon calories upon calories. What are some of the transformations you've seen? I know you've coached thousands of people at this point to successfully reduce or quit alcohol in an easy way. What are some of the transformations you've seen from people who have taken your program?
Well, I'll give you a general answer, then I'll give you a more specific answer. Generally, people lose weight. The weight just falls off them because they're not drinking calories. The alcohol's not turning into sugar. They're not craving sugary foods, because make no mistake, when you drink alcohol, you get hungrier. Like, you want to eat more food. And so just by virtue of that, if you stop drinking alcohol, you stop drinking calories and you stop desiring so much food, and the weight just falls off. Your skin returns to the way that nature always intended your skin to look. They did a study out of the UK that showed that people who drank even small amounts of alcohol had 30% more visible wrinkles and crow's feet around the eyes. So when you stop drinking, your skin just looks brighter. It looks better. You sleep better. That's one of the huge consequences, I guess, of stopping drinking. You sleep both longer, and the quality of the sleep increases. And you can track that. You might have noticed I'm wearing an Oura ring here. And so we have a lot of our clients in our Project 90 Stop Drinking program. We have them track their sleep before they officially stop drinking with us, and then track their sleep once they've stopped drinking with us. And you can see the evidence is right there. The time in the deep REM restorative phase of sleep goes up. And then anecdotally, they just feel more refreshed. They've got more energy, clarity, focus.
My buddy Adam Roach, who did an episode with us, has an Oura ring, and he would show me the days that he drank bourbon, and it'd be like a 40% sleep rating. And then he'd show me days that he was alcohol free, and he'd get to like an 80% sleep rating. And I'm like, dude, you track way too many things, man. But that, it really is telling when you have data to show you how you sleep, that the one variable there that makes such a difference. And I get cranky, man. When I get bad sleep, I get cranky. So then I'm in a bad mood. And this is the good mood show. So I need to be feeling good anyway.
Yeah.
So I love your pillars. And, the first pillar to removing alcohol, you said, is to remove the visual cues. And why is this such a crucial step?
When alcohol's in the home, we see it, we think about it, we tend to drink it. When there are wine glasses in the home, we see the wine glasses, we think about alcohol, we tend to pour ourselves a drink. When there are bottle openers, we see the bottle opener, we think fridge, go and crack open a beer. When we open the fridge and we see Chardonnay or beer, we see it, we think it, we drink it. James Clear, who wrote the New York Times bestselling book, Atomic Habits, I interviewed him on our podcast. We have a podcast called Alcohol-Free Lifestyle, in which we share tips for folks to stop drinking, or at the very least, reduce their drinking. And James Clear was the one who actually educated me and taught me about the importance of removing visual cues that get you to drink and replacing them with visual cues that get you to live an alcohol-free lifestyle. So what he suggested was remove the visual cues, as I just explained, and replace those visual cues of alcohol with healthy cues. And so what I did was I bought a bouquet of flowers. Now that seems kind of strange because I consider myself to be, it's kind of like I would say I'm a pretty tough alpha male-esque Australian man who grew up in Australia with the idea of masculinity being a certain way, right or wrong. That's what my culture was. And so to go out to a farmer's market like I did in Venice Beach, California, where I was living at the time, and buy myself a bouquet of flowers felt kind of awkward, I have to say. And I would return back to my home where I was living at the time, and I was single at the time, and I would put this bouquet of flowers on the living room table. And then I would nurture those flowers for 5 days. I'd change the water every day. I'd cut the stems. I'd try to keep them alive and as vibrant as possible for as long as I could. And there were days where I would leave my home and I'd go out, and then I would come back forgetting about the flowers. I'd open the door, and the first thing that would greet me was this beautiful array of gold-colored, purple, pink flowers, and this scent of like, oh, that is gorgeous. And what it did for me, that visual cue, is remind myself of health and vitality. And it was a metaphor, if you like, for the fact that I am also a walking, breathing, smelling, colorful array of life. And so every day I changed the water of those flowers, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to drink lots of clean drinking water, just like I'm giving these flowers clean water, drinking water. When I would position the flowers close to the window so it would get direct sunlight, in my mind, I'm like, James, go outside and get some direct sunlight. And all the studies show that sunlight on the skin is so good for you. It like increases our dopamine and serotonin. We just, it's so good for you. And, there were a couple of times I would go to the Air One supermarket in Venice Beach, California, where I was at the time, and I'd be waiting in line to check out with my food, and they've got these chocolates and all these other kind of sugary treats. And on a couple of occasions, I would get the chocolate and buy the chocolate and eat the chocolate. But it was funny because right after I bought those flowers and I had that visual cue, after that, every time I was in line waiting to check out with my food, anytime I was tempted to buy the sugary treat, I just reminded myself of the flowers, or the flowers rather came into my mind. And I thought, you're taking care of the flowers, take care of your own body. You are a walking, breathing, healthy vessel. And so I just didn't get the chocolate. So this is how the visual cues can really inspire you if you proactively put some intention behind it.
I love this. And you also had recommended putting bowls of lemons and limes out on the counter. And we do this at our house. We always have a bouquet of flowers. And we have this giant bowl on our kitchen island full of fruits and vegetables, and it's just out in the open. But I'm a massively big fan of Atomic Habits and the work that James Clear has done.
And I can see in the background, Matt, where you've got a plant there, right? You've got a plant in the background of where we're conducting this interview. Yeah. And they've done studies that show that if you put a plant or flowers in a hospital room, like if someone's in hospital and they're spending a few nights there, just by putting a plant or some flowers next to the person's bed can reduce the amount of time that those patients stay in hospital.
Crazy.
That is extraordinary.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, you're doing a great job there with that. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but just by virtue of the fact that you've got that greenery in your workplace.
Next to me at my home office, in the chair that I read and drink my coffee in the morning, is a plant that I tend to and care for. We have plants all throughout our home. I've heard the same, but I had not heard that story, that patients leave the hospital sooner when they have a plant next to them. But I feel it, right? Like this is also alive.
Yeah, if you're a patient, you also want do whatever you can to get close to a window, because the light shining through also creates a feeling of health and vitality. And the studies also show that just doing that can reduce the amount of time that you spend in hospital.
Well, let's just do it in our ordinary life. Let's just spend time in the sun every day and get close to plants and nature and things that are living in our everyday life.
Yes.
You know, another one of the things you said was pillar 3 was drinking is not the reward.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
Well, most people, when they stop drinking for like dry July or, dry January, do these 30-day alcohol-free challenges, which is great. It's great to a degree that people are experiencing what it's like to live without consuming this attractively packaged poison. But invariably, what most people do is they get to day 30 or 31, and they then want to celebrate with a drink. And when they've both unconsciously and consciously identifying alcohol as celebration, that means that when you're not drinking alcohol, you're associating that with deprivation. Now, I don't know about you, Matt, but I don't want to go through my life feeling like I'm depriving myself of anything.
No.
And what happens is that most people, when they're not drinking, feel like they're in a prison. They're depriving themselves of this substance that they may ordinarily choose and worship and savor. So what I invite folks to do is to completely rewire the mindset around that and look at healthy living, consistent healthy living as the reward, as the celebration. And the prison is any consumption of attractively packaged poison. Now, that takes a little bit to get people's mindset rewired around that, because cultural conditioning, the way it is, most folks listening to this podcast now have probably been drinking at least 10 years, in many cases 20 or 30 or 40. If we figure that we've been drinking, some amount since age 16 or 17, maybe earlier 15, and we're now 35, that's 20 years of drinking. If we're 45, it's 30 years.
Do you remember growing up and cigarettes being the norm?
Oh, yeah.
Both my parents smoked. My parents' friends smoked. It seemed like everywhere I went, people were smoking. You'd go into a restaurant, people were smoking, and it was the norm. And then Surgeon General warnings started to go on packages, and then the billboards of the Camels started to come down. And then all of a sudden, 20 years after that campaign started, smoking started to become uncool. But it took a long time. And now you see somebody that's so far away from an establishment, they have to like walk next door to have a cigarette by themselves. They look like the awkward one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm 47 years old as we're recording this. And in the early 90s, I was 17, 18, and I smoked cigarettes and I drank copious amounts of beer or Bundaberg rum and Coke. And I smoked half a pack of cigarettes a day for not 20 years, I'm sorry, for probably 3 or 4 years. And that was fine. That was absolutely fine. I had a full-time job at the time. When I first started in the job in 1993, people were smoking in the office, like inside, not even going out of the office. And then I think it was 94, a year later, where they said, no, from now on in, no smoking in the office.
Everybody was like, what? What? That's
Yeah.
oh, come on, man. You're taking away our cigarettes. Not cool. But my
Yeah.
point about this is that I think we're at that same inflection point right now with drinking. And I think 20 years from now, that not drinking will be just as common as drinking, where it hasn't been that way since, for my whole life. But I'm starting to see it. I'm seeing all these non-alcoholic beer options pop up. I'm just seeing the culture shifting. And I don't think it's just because I stopped drinking that I'm noticing it. I really do think the world is shifting right now.
Alcohol's reputation is crumbling. There was a study from 2020 that found that the portion of college-age Americans who are completely alcohol-free had risen from 20% to 28% in a decade.
That's a lot.
That's a huge jump. And then during the pandemic lockdown, Generation Z Australians, they did a study of the Generation Z Australians, and they showed that Generation Z Aussies were most likely to have decreased their alcohol consumption, with 44% of them reporting that they were drinking less. And that generation, in terms of, drinking less, was more than double the rate for any other generation. So millennials, or the younger generation, let's call it, are increasingly turning their back on alcohol. And also, just another interesting thing, let me ask you a question first, Matt. When you think of the country of Ireland as it relates to alcohol, what instinctively comes to mind? What do you think?
The pub. I am Irish. My grandfather came over on the boat from Ireland. My whole family was on the boat from the potato famine. That's how we got here, man. And so my whole life, people are like, "Oh yeah, the pub, Irish, go have a pint of beer," right? That's Ireland.
Well, I got some interesting news for you. Did you know that just last week, in May 2023, the country of Ireland announced that it will be the first country to place cancer warnings on alcohol labels?
I love it.
So congratulations, you're pioneers, your ancestors, and you're Irish, you're pioneers, Matt.
This is the same as the Surgeon General's warning that went on cigarettes. This is what I'm saying, is that we're at that inflection point right now. And I think what you're talking about with this younger generation, the Gen Z, the millennial, they are the generation of mental health. And mental health has become such a big topic for the younger generation. And I think that the link of anxiety and mental health disorders and alcohol is becoming pretty apparent. And I think that's a big driving force of this.
Absolutely. And mental health can lead to, if you have great mental health, I should say, can lead to increased wealth creation. You earn more. They've done studies that show that happier people, or what might be a better way of saying it, less stressed and anxious and irritable people, tend to earn more financially, either in a business or in their career. So if you are choosing to drink attractively packaged poison, you are leaving potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, on the table because of a lack of optimal performance. I can't tell you how many of our clients who go through our 90-day stop drinking process report generating tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars more in either business revenue or income during the 90 days that they're stopping drinking with us.
All of a sudden, there's energy, there's creativity, there's all this power to go out and do fun stuff. And that power is just being subdued and drowned out. As we're having these drinks, we're giving our power away. We're giving our consciousness away. I used to drink to blackout, and that was the issue. Was that I couldn't have one or two. I think if I had been able to have one or two, that I wouldn't have made the change. But for me, I'd have one and I'd have it so fast because I wanted to get to number two, because I wanted to get to number five. And I'd wake up in the morning and I'd say, "Oh man, did I say anything stupid?" And I hated that feeling. But why did I want to not remember? And I don't have an answer for it, but I just know that that's what was going on with me. And now I just want to experience every moment of my life that I can, because it's so precious. My brother's best friend, just 43 years old, died of a heart attack this weekend.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a terrible loss, and such a great guy. And it opens my eyes to how every single moment that I can be here is a gift and a blessing. And I don't want to drown it out and not remember it.
And I would add to that, every moment with clarity and focus and energy and connection and presence, because we can be here, we can be alive, but the quality of us being alive might be compromised. So a lot of people say like, oh, I want to live longer. I mean, I don't necessarily want to live longer. I just want to live great while I'm alive,
Yes.
because you can live to 100 and have a really compromised experience of life. You've got aches and bones, and you're overweight, and you're in and out of hospital. Maybe you've got, some memory loss, form of dementia, like my mother's husband currently does. Sadly, he's 80, 81. And, he's had a lifetime of consistent drinking habits, not an alcoholic, but just drinking a couple of drinks a night consistently for probably 60 years. I'm no doctor, but I can tell you my suspicion is that drinking has really increased the speed with which the dementia has come on, especially given the study that I referenced earlier that shows that any amount of alcohol, or not any amount, I should say, 1 drink a night of alcohol is enough to destroy gray and white matter in the brain. So you'd have to think 60 years, 6 decades of consistent 1 or 2 drinks a night. That's got to affect you later on in life. So I get what you're saying. And for me, it's all about the quality of the time that I have while I'm here, as opposed to the length and the duration of it.
I'm with you, man. But I was on the ski slopes. I'm a big skier. And we were in the backside of Vail, which is, experts only, trees everywhere. It's really steep and super fun. And this 88-year-old was on the chairlift with me. He's 88 years old. And he gets off this chairlift and he shreds down this mountain. And I'm like, that's my idol, because we can live to 90 and be thriving and vibrant. And I think the way to it, though, I remember that when Tom Brady came out with how strict he was about his diet, and you look at him winning a Super Bowl at 43 years old, and nobody does that. Well, maybe there's something to taking care of our bodies if we want them to last for us.
We're having to change generational conditioning. Generational conditioning. Go all the way back to your ancestors and your relatives from Ireland, who came over to the US because of the potato famine that you referenced. I mean, think about what they knew, how educated they were at the time. Not that much compared to how we are today. Think about my native country of Australia. They used to send convicts out in the late 1700s. It was settled by convicts, right? And then the settlers, there was a huge rum trade. Like, rum was considered the celebration, and it was considered part of bonding, and today in 2023, the Australian culture is still experiencing that. Oh, have a couple of beers, mate, you'll be fine. Oh, I had a couple of rums. It's like everyone's smiling and joking around the fact that we're drinking this poison, right? And that's been embedded in the culture for 240 years.
I love country music. Love country music. Every other song is about drinking. So if you love country music and you listen to it, subconsciously, the songs that bounce around your head are about having a drinking problem. And I love that song, I've Got a Drinking Problem. But I'm serious. I love the song, but all the songs are the same. They celebrate that I'm okay because I drink. So we do, it's going to take some time, but I think the culture will shift. One of the things you said in your guide was you don't need alcohol to loosen up. You just need to loosen up. Man, I loved it. So how, if I've relied on this ritual of having a glass of wine to wind down, How do I change that ritual?
Few things. I mentioned a couple of them earlier. First thing is a belief. Right? We've got to change the belief system. You've got to understand that you've been in the matrix of cultural conditioning for, in many cases, decades. And there are smiling assassins everywhere. And smiling assassins are your friends and your family and your colleagues and the waiter and the waitress who are smiling as they offer you a drink. Hey, can I get you a drink? Hey, would you like a drink? Hey, can I get you a glass of wine? And these smiling assassins, because they're smiling as they're offering you this attractively packaged poison, it creates the idea and the illusion that drinking must be fun and must be something desirable and must be a gift and must be something that we should bow down and worship, like the tribesmen did in the beginning of the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the Nazi guy held up the idol that Indiana Jones had just got from the mountain. You know the scene I'm referring to,
I do.
Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how society is walking around treating alcohol, like we're bowing down and worshiping this idol. So the first thing is rewiring our mindset, understanding that you've been in the matrix and understanding that cultural conditioning has had you feel this way. It's not necessarily your fault that it's been this way, but it is now your responsibility with this new level of education to take a new set of actions. The other thing is, I would say, is most people are drinking to relieve themselves temporarily of stress and anxiety. So generally, I would say live a life that naturally destroys your stress and anxiety. Now, I can get into a whole host of series of things that you could do here, but we probably don't have time. But some big things would be write down in a gratitude diary every morning. I have our clients do what's called the daily 20, and we have them write down 20 things they're grateful for each morning, and that activates something called the reticular activating system, or the RAS, which then means that throughout the remainder of the day, you will naturally see evidence that there's lots to be grateful for. So, and when that happens, your stress and anxiety has been shown to decrease, which means you're less likely to want to seek refuge in a drink.
One of my prayers every day is for God to give me the ability to be grateful and present today.
I like that.
When we're grateful, we are present to the blessings.
Yes.
So this idea that you have people that work with you to write down 20 things they're grateful for every day, that's a tremendous number. Like, how long does that take?
It can take 10 minutes, 7 minutes sometimes. 20. I mean, 3's nice, 5's cute, but 20, that activates the reticular activating system. I mean, think about it. You go to a gym. Are you really just going to do 3 bicep curls and think that your biceps going to grow?
1, 2, 3. I'm good. I'm out. See you again.
The whole point is you want it to feel challenging. You want to activate that reticular activating system. You want to keep searching for things to be grateful for that you didn't notice before.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, when you live a life of appreciation instead of expectation, your stress and anxiety reduces and you don't feel the need to have a glass of attractively packaged poison at the end of it. The other thing I would say is focus on your sleep. Like I'm telling you, if you are well rested, you don't tend to desire drinking alcohol because you're well rested, you're energetic and you're clear. 2 best ways I know of to improve your sleep is expose yourself to natural sunlight first thing in the morning. You might do some sun gazing, but let the sun hit your skin because the skin has receptors in it. And when the receptors are activated and your body knows that the body recognizes that the sunlight's hitting the skin, it tells your internal body clock known as your circadian rhythm, this is wake up time to flood the body with some daytime hormones. Likewise, at nighttime, you want to block as much of artificial blue light as possible by wearing a quality pair of blue blockers. I'm wearing a pair now from my sleep company called Swanwick Sleep. And the orange lens blocks the artificial light that comes out of your screen, from your cell phone, from your computer, from your refrigerator light, bathroom light, kitchen light, speedometer light, McDonald's Golden Arches lights as you're driving down the highway. All of that light at night is compromising your melatonin release, which is compromising your sleep. So get as much natural sunlight in the morning as possible and block as much artificial light at night as possible. And that will create a noticeable improvement in your sleep. And then finally, I would say, learn to experience joy and euphoria from seemingly mundane, innocuous things. There's some Yale University professors that I have interviewed relentlessly about dopamine. And what they showed was, or what they informed me was, is that when we drink alcohol, our dopamine receptors, they're on fire. They love it. There's like fireworks going off, right? And when we stop drinking alcohol after years of drinking, our dopamine receptors are numb, they're dull. And so it's very challenging to try to get that same level of dopamine release that we've been getting for years from the alcohol. But what they told me was this, and I think this is probably one of the most important things that I would leave your listeners with. You can release dopamine, which makes us feel great, euphoric, happy, consistently by celebrating consistently throughout the day. For example, if you make your bed, don't just go, I made my bed, I feel pretty good about that. Actually, move your body, throw your arms in the air, give yourself a little fist pump and go, yes, I made my bed. It looks amazing.
My wife and I like the chest bump.
There you go. Chest bump is great. Now you actually want to move your body. You want to throw your arms in the air and you want to give yourself a fist bump, or in the case of Matt and his wife, the chest bump, right? Now, what that does is that it releases dopamine into the system. Now, it may feel awkward. You may even feel embarrassed doing it, right? But they've done this study of the human body and the human brain. Dopamine is released. So what that means is throughout the day, it's like, yes, what a great day. It's amazing, for the win. Hey, let's go for dinner. What time should we go for dinner tonight? 7. I was thinking more like 6:30. Yeah, let's do 6:30. 6:30. Get in there. Yes.
6:30.
All right. You go to the restaurant and you go, oh, look at this beautiful meal that I've got. Oh, how good is this? How good is it that we're out here in the restaurant having this beautiful meal? For the win. Give me a high five. And you can do this with your kids. You can do it with your husband, your wife, or your friends. And you can...
Man. You're bringing the high five back to every day. And the high five used to be a really cool thing. We're bringing it back.
Bring back the high five, Matt. Bring it back.
The high five releases dopamine, which feels freaking amazing. I love high fiving people. You know, it's very rare you go for a high five and someone leaves you hanging. Like,
very rare.
If you go in for a high five, they're always coming back with it. You just gave them a gift. You just gave them a gift. You just gave them dopamine. They have no idea. I'm going to start giving more high fives out. And man, this has been so much fun. I could talk with you forever. If you've loved this conversation, definitely get that 5-step formula to discreetly quit alcohol. James Swanwick's guide. If you're a subscriber to Good Mood Show newsletter, we'll send you a copy this week, or you can download it at goodmoodshow.com by signing up for the newsletter, and we'll send it out. James, there are people listening that are going to want to take your challenge, that'll want to get in touch. How do they get in touch with you?
Well, you can listen to ongoing tips on how to live an alcohol-free lifestyle over on the podcast, which is in Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. It's named Alcohol Free Lifestyle. I've got a website, alcoholfreelifestyle.com. I'm over on Instagram at James Swanwick. My last name is actually spelled Swanwick, but it's pronounced Swanwick. And then, if you want to get yourself a pair of high quality blue blockers that block the artificial light, you can go over to swanwicksleep.com, or you can just type in Swannies or Swanwick Sleep into Amazon, and you can get yourself a pair. That'll really support your sleep, which in turn will support you finding it far easier to reduce or stop drinking alcohol.
Thank you so much for bringing this message to this community, James. I've just loved it. Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.